Are there any other tiny habits and practices you just want to share, Tim?
You want to get better at public speaking, the one tiny habit that you can do is to simply slower. Beforehand, as I was working in companies, I used to give away opportunities to present my work because it always made me very nervous. My voice would shake, my hands would tremble. But the important thing here about doing a lot more of this public speaking is that it is still the way that people get heard and seen in the cultures that we work. If we can accept that this is the way that things are, there are actually very small things that you can do to get better at public speaking. So one of those things, you can do it today, is to simply speak slower. And that works for many reasons. Now, when you speak slower, like Chris was just saying, your brain can actually catch up to the speed at which words are leaving your mouth. What tends to happen when you get nervous is you actually end up speaking faster, and then you speak at the speed that you actually start saying things you don't mean because your brain doesn't even have time to actually process what you want to say. When you actually change that speed at which you speak, it also captivates people's attention. Because when you speak slower, when you want to emphasize certain points, it is in sharp contrast to all the things that you say in between, the filler words, before you then slow down and make your next strong point. The book also goes through the other tactics like how to prepare scripts. I think there are actually 3 kinds of scripts. Most people tend to go and write a full-blown script and write down every single word that they want to say for a meeting. I don't think that's the smartest thing to do. There are actually different ways that you can prepare scripting. We talk about how you can actually prepare and get ready for interactions with people in your presentation so they can help you think on the spot.
I think that was a good one. And I think I'm going to practice that. I think me and you both have the ADP list conference, Be More. So if you guys want to hear our presentation and how we speak on that, then tune into that as well. Let's go to audience questions. As an introvert, I tend to overthink how I talk to clients and or co-workers that make it hard for me to clearly articulate my thought. Do you have any tips on how I can stop yourself from doing that?
You're not the first one to say this. A lot of times, people, when they come and we talk about how can they have impact at work, they say, how can I stop overthinking? They are thinking like there's a cure that can say, if there's a pill that I could take, ingest, I will stop overthinking. They come here to look for a cure. I have no cure, but what I do have is, look, this is me. I recognize this is what I'm doing. I tend to think before I speak. If this is something that happens to you too, that you overthink, I overthink all the time. What I tend to do is to actually write down a lot of my detailed notes so that it's outside of my brain. I can actually think a lot more clearer and sharper. I don't lose the idea. And now that it's actually written, whether it's written down in my book or my computer, I can actually free myself up to actually participate in that meeting. I can actually join in the conversation. Because if people invited you to that meeting, it is to hear what you think. But if you don't actually speak up, it's almost as if you didn't come to that meeting in the first place. And then writing down those ideas will actually help you process so that it's not all on your brain. It will actually free up yourself to actually think about the question that people ask you, what's being discussed, and allow you to actually contribute because you're not losing those thoughts that you are overthinking in your head. You had already written them down. You can then actually free your mind up on how to actually participate and say the important things when you need to say them when you're in that client meeting or in your meeting with co-workers. One of the things that also tends to happen, it is how do we get the attention of others? Because sometimes the opposite actually happens in meetings. Everyone's saying these things, but you don't know how to join the conversation. Sometimes you see people and the discussion is going one way. Everyone has jumped onto the bandwagon and you're sitting there, you're watching this bandwagon drive off and you can see this is going to be a really bad idea if everybody else carries on going where this bandwagon is going, right? It happens all the time. How do you then interject and then maybe bring everybody else onto a different path? One of those ways is accept that text chat is a first-class way of communicating. If we were all here on a Zoom meeting, why is it that speaking up like that is the only way to be heard? If you can start practicing and actually allowing people to actually have their feedback on chat, if you start doing these things, it then lets people communicate the way that they want to communicate, whether it's text chat or speaking up. And then you can get the most out of your people. So to take it back to your question, Amy, the way I see it is not so much to stop and change who you are, because before, I think I really tried to do that. And I was comparing myself and trying to be other people. For me, comparing myself to others was my recipe for misery, because I'll never be like that. But I came to accept this is who I am. And for me, that's really about taking detailed notes and then participating when I need to in meetings.
Really like that, Tim. I have another question. In my country, I was an extrovert, but now I live in the US. I'm more of an introvert. How do I make this advantage? Do you have any thoughts on this based on your personal experience of moving countries?
When people move to a different context, I think like you're in a different place in the country that you're living in now. Your first language, maybe it's English, maybe it's something else. Maybe the country you moved to, that is no longer your first language that you're comfortable. When I first came to Australia, people here talk about footy. They love footy so much. They got two different kinds of rugby in Australia. They have cricket. I like none of the above. So when it came to things like connecting with people, making small talk, it wasn't a topic for me. I had to learn how to actually make small talk with people so that the real me can then come out and then I can build a connection with people. I think if you're talking about how do I make this an advantage, I would say it's accepted that you move to somewhere else. Just because you are different doesn't make you worse. Two of the tiny habits that I say that have actually allowed me to have the biggest impact over time is firstly, the ability to introduce myself well, whether it's at an interview or whether it's at social interactions. And then number two, learning how to actually make small talk. These two sets of skills, they seem so trivial. Everybody wants to focus on the hard stuff. How do I give difficult feedback? How do I say no politely? I'm here to tell you, in the long run, if you want to have impact and influence, you want to be able to learn how to do these two things, introduce yourself, make small talk over time, will help you build the amount of connections that you can have and expand your network. It will help you open up more doors for you to then do other greater things that you want to do. If you talk about advantages, I noticed that quiet people like myself, we tend to be very good observers. We tend to notice things that other people might not notice. And that can be a very good thing, because maybe somebody might have told you the other day that the baby had gotten sick and they didn't sleep through the night and they came to work looking very tired. The fact that you noticed that they were looking tired is an opportunity for you to build a connection with that coworker. And having a better relationship with the people that you work with can only help you work better together in your day-to-day work itself.
We have a question from, hey, Andre. Tim, can you name one or two peers that have influenced your mindset or your work, and why?
When I was looking for a way forward that was a lot more natural, a lot of the self-help books I read tended.
Want to listen to the full conversation? Click the video on screen now. Subscribe to the channel if you want to join us live. Oh, wait. Okay, fine, you don't have to join us for the live stream, but if you like stuff like this, then click that subscribe button. I'll see you on the inside. Bye!